The cameras flashed. The crowd froze.
Uh-huh.
And just like that, Hollywood had a new obsession. Dwyane Wade's family faces serious new legal trouble. A quiet Burbank morning, like 5:30 a.m. A sudden 911 call reporting a woman screaming just completely shatters the silence. The police arrive, and a beloved sports dynasty faces a dark new reality. Welcome to Starscope Report.
Join us as we uncover Hollywood drama, music industry shakeups, and viral influencer scandals.
From red carpet surprises to social media controversies, we dive deep into the stories behind the fame.
And today, we're doing a deep dive into a story that has just completely upended the sports world. I mean, we are looking at the sudden and really shocking arrest of Zaire Wade.
Yeah, he's 24 years old, the eldest son of Miami Heat legend and NBA Hall of Famer Dwyane Wade. And, if you've been following the news at all, there's just a ton of noise surrounding this right now.
Oh, absolutely. So to cut through all that, we brought a massive stack of sources today. We're pulling directly from the daily arrest logs of the Burbank Police Department.
Right, plus we have news reports from NBC4 Los Angeles, TMZ, Sports Illustrated, and several local Miami outlets. And to really understand the cultural fallout, we're digging into a huge, unfiltered Reddit thread from r/NBA.
Exactly. Our mission for this deep dive is to separate the confirmed legal facts from all the internet speculation and then examine the broader sociological reaction to all of this.
And honestly, that's not even the wildest part. Later in the deep dive, we'll talk about the shocking twist nobody saw coming regarding his basketball career.
Yeah, you really won't want to miss that. But first, let's unpack this, starting with the timeline. Sunday morning, June 21, 2026.
Right. The Burbank Police Department responds to a residence at 5:30 a.m. And the initial trigger for the dispatch is not like a noise complaint or a silent alarm.
No, it's a 911 call specifically reporting a woman screaming.
Exactly. I was reading through the Burbank police logs, and the detail that really stopped me was the physical evidence they documented upon arrival. It completely shifts this from a potential misunderstanding to a felony scene.
Yeah, it really does, because when officers arrive at a domestic disturbance call and find visible injuries, well, their discretion is essentially removed.
What do you mean by removed?
Well, according to the reports, officers found Zaire Wade and an unidentified woman, and they noted visible lacerations on her face and body.
Oh, wow.
Right. And in California, if law enforcement observes traumatic injury in a domestic violence context, they are mandated to make an arrest.
They don't have a choice.
Exactly. Now, paramedics were called to the scene and evaluated the woman, but she actually declined transportation to a hospital?
Right, but the police still conducted their initial investigation on site, and NBC4 reported that they recovered a handgun from the residence.
Which just elevates the severity of everything.
It really does. And the combination of charges is what stands out in the booking logs. Zaire was arrested and booked on felony domestic violence, criminal threats, and false imprisonment.
Yeah, the false imprisonment one really jumps out.
It does. Because I think a lot of people hear false imprisonment, and they immediately picture, like, a kidnapping scenario.
Yeah.
How does a district attorney weigh that specific charge in a domestic context?
Well, in the context of domestic violence, the legal threshold for false imprisonment usually involves restricting someone's personal liberty.
Like physically blocking them?
Right. It can be as simple as standing in front of a bedroom door, physically blocking an exit, or taking away a person's phone so they can't call for help or leave the premises.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So when officers find visible lacerations alongside a recovered handgun, a false imprisonment charge suggests a sustained volatile confrontation where the victim was allegedly trapped.
Jeez. And following this, police issued an emergency protective order for the woman.
Which restricts any contact from the accused for a brief period, usually 5 to 7 days, just to allow for a permanent order to be sought.
So legally, where does a $50,000 bond leave him? Because TMZ noted he posted bail later that day. If you're listening to this and thinking, well, why is a $50,000 bond a big deal for a billionaire's son? You have to look at the precedent it sets. It immediately signals severity to the public.
What's fascinating here is the holding pattern that follows an arrest like this. There's a massive distinction between police action and formal prosecution.
Well, for sure.
A $50,000 bail is typically just part of a standard county booking schedule for these types of felony allegations. It secures his release, but it does not mean he's been formally charged with a crime.
Right, because right now, no formal charges have been filed by prosecutors.
Exactly. The Burbank police have forwarded all their evidence, the officer's observations of the lacerations, the recovered handgun, any witness statement straight to the Los Angeles County District Attorney's Office.
And it is solely the DA's job to evaluate if that evidence can prove a case beyond a reasonable doubt in court.
Right. Zaire is presumed innocent until proven guilty, and as of our sources, neither he nor Dwyane Wade have made a single public statement.
I mean, I understand the legal presumption of innocence and the DA's burden of proof, but I have to push back on how this operates in the real world.
How so?
That legal limbo is exactly why the public reaction has been so immediate and visceral. When a celebrity's child is involved, the mere presence of a weapon, visible lacerations, and severe booking charges, it instantly strips away the benefit of the doubt in the public eye.
Yeah, the court of public opinion doesn't wait for a verdict.
Exactly.
Okay.
Without a definitive legal ruling to point to, the public just rushes in to fill the vacuum. It forces everyone to view this not as a private family matter, but as an undeniable crisis for a highly curated brand.
The speed at which the narrative solidifies is just staggering. The legal system might take months to decide on formal charges, right? They're analyzing medical records and deciding if they can proceed, even if the victim refuses to cooperate.
But the public makes its ruling by lunchtime on the day of the arrest.
Exactly. And hey, if you're loving these Hollywood twists, make sure you're subscribed. We've got even crazier stories ahead.
Definitely hit that subscribe button, because to truly understand why that public narrative is solidifying so intensely, we have to look at his highly unconventional athletic path.
Oh, absolutely.
We are talking about the immense, almost suffocating weight of being the namesake of a Hall of Fame father. It's a unique kind of isolation.
Yeah, Zaire isn't just a celebrity son who grew up attending movie premieres. He was deeply embedded in the basketball world from the moment he could walk.
Right. According to Sports Illustrated, he was a highly scouted prospect at Sierra Canyon School in Los Angeles, which is essentially the epicenter of high school basketball media.
And let's put that in context for you. He was playing on the same high school team as Bronny James.
Yes, you have the teenage sons of LeBron James and Dwyane Wade sharing a backcourt.
With their legendary fathers sitting courtside while ESPN broadcasts their high school gym games nationally.
The media circus was entirely unprecedented. I mean, every missed shot, every turnover, every locker room interaction is magnified 1,000 times over.
And that leads to a critical pivot point in his life. In 2021, Zaire finishes high school. He's a legitimate prospect with Division I college offers on the table.
Yeah, we are talking about scholarships to DePaul, Nebraska, Rhode Island, and Toledo.
Right, and the traditional route for a player of his caliber would be to go to college, develop his game away from the brightest spotlight, and try to earn his way to the NBA.
But he rejects that traditional route. He skips college entirely to turn professional at 19.
Which is a huge gamble.
It is. And this is where the athletic reality clashes with the nepotism debate. He enters the NBA G League draft and gets selected by the Salt Lake City Stars.
And our sources highlight a massive controversy surrounding this draft pick.
Oh, yeah, because the Salt Lake City Stars are the minor league affiliate of the Utah Jazz.
And Dwyane Wade happens to be a prominent part owner of the Utah Jazz.
Right. So the conflict of interest was heavily criticized by basketball analysts and fans alike.
Because the G League is an incredibly brutal environment. It's not a developmental league filled with teenagers.
No, it's filled with 28-year-old men, many of whom have families to feed, who are fighting desperately for a 10-day NBA contract.
They're taking buses to empty gyms in the middle of winter, fighting for their professional survival.
Exactly. I look at this like taking a junior executive and dropping him directly onto the factory floor, where everyone knows his dad owns the entire company.
That's a great analogy.
Every mistake isn't just a learning moment, it's a target on his back.
Yeah.
In Hollywood, if you cast a famous producer's kid in a movie, the worst outcome is a bad review.
But basketball is entirely different.
Right. You can inherit a massive stock portfolio, but you cannot inherit a 40-inch vertical leap. You cannot inherit a jump shot. The physical reality of the sport exposes you instantly.
Yeah, when you step onto the court in the G League, those grown men are going to test you physically and mentally, and your father's ownership stake cannot protect you from a blindside screen.
And that physical exposure became apparent very quickly. His G League career was derailed almost immediately by a season-ending injury in his first year.
Yeah, and from there, the timeline becomes incredibly unstable. He essentially becomes a basketball nomad, taking overseas contracts to keep his professional dreams alive.
Right. In 2023, he traveled to South Africa to play for the Cape Town Tigers in the Basketball Africa League.
That is a staggering geographic and cultural shift. You go from the hyper-curated luxury environment of Los Angeles high school basketball to the G League in Utah to South Africa.
And the journey didn't stop there. By 2024, he was suiting up for the Macau Black Bears in the Asian tournament.
He was bouncing from league to league, continent to continent, always carrying that legendary last name on his jersey, but never quite finding solid athletic footing.
And I was reading through the Sports Illustrated piece analyzing this tourney, and here's where it gets really interesting regarding his athletic timeline.
Oh, this is the twist.
Yeah, usually a prospect tries to graduate from college to the professional ranks. But the report noted that just prior to this arrest, at 24 years old, Zaire had expressed interest in reversing course.
Right, he wanted to go back.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He wanted to finally use his 4 years of eligibility to play Division I college basketball.
Which is almost completely unheard of in modern basketball. Returning to the amateur college level after spending years playing professionally overseas against grown men, it indicates a deep search for stability.
It really does.
When you synthesize that timeline, the injuries, the nepotism backlash, the global bouncing, the desire to retreat to the college ranks, you see a young man who has been desperately trying to carve out his own identity while standing squarely in a shadow that he can never outgrow.
Well said. And the instability of that path collides violently with this sudden 5:30 a.m. arrest. It creates a vacuum of information.
Stay tuned and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss what's coming next, because the internet's reaction to this is just wild.
It really is. Looking at the massive response on the r/NBA subreddit, the internet rushed in to fill that vacuum with a fierce debate about money, morality, and parenthood.
Yeah, the Reddit thread is essentially a real-time sociological study of how the public processes the failings of the ultra-privileged.
The division in sentiment was striking. On one side, you had a profound visceral empathy directed toward Dwyane Wade as a father.
Right. Users were projecting their own parental fears onto the situation. You saw comments like, "What do you even say to your kid if you get this news?"
And I know this is killing D. Wade.
Exactly. The empathy was entirely focused on the parent receiving that early morning phone call, realizing their child has crossed a line that PR cannot fix.
But the moment the focus shifted to Zaire, the empathy vanished. The condemnation was incredibly harsh, and it immediately evolved into a referendum on generational wealth.
People began debating whether extreme wealth insulates individuals from consequences, or if it actively breeds reckless behavior.
Let's look at the specific quotes from the thread, because they illustrate the sociology perfectly. One user asked, "How hard is it to stay out of this kind of trouble when your family has generational wealth?"
And the underlying assumption in that comment is that financial security should buy common sense. It reflects a societal expectation that if a person is handed every conceivable advantage, the best private schools, elite trainers, financial safety nets, they owe it to society to simply exist without causing harm.
And when a person with those advantages is accused of violent crime, the public views it as a broken social contract.
Exactly. But the pushback to that class-based argument was equally intense. Another commenter replied, "Men don't beat women because they're poor."
Wow, that is a crucial sociological distinction.
It is. It strips away the wealth argument and refocuses the discussion squarely on the mechanics of domestic violence. It reminds the forum that abuse is about power and control, and it crosses all socioeconomic lines.
Wealth doesn't cause domestic violence, and poverty doesn't excuse it.
Perfectly put.
Then you had a synthesis of both arguments from a commenter who simply wrote, "Generational wealth never makes people better."
And that led the community to pull back and look at historical context. Users started pointing out that this is not an isolated phenomenon in the sports world.
Yeah, they brought up Larry Bird's son, Connor, who faced severe legal trouble years ago involving allegations of trying to hit an ex-girlfriend with a car.
And they brought up Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's son, who was involved in a violent altercation with a neighbor.
We see this recurring phenomenon with the children of generational sports wealth, and it goes back to the idea of non-transferable greatness.
Right. A business mogul can hand their child a vice president title and insulate them within a corporate structure. But a basketball legend's legacy is entirely physical.
The child inherits the immense, suffocating pressure of public expectation, but they don't inherit the athletic genius that built the empire. That creates a profound psychological vacuum.
It's an isolating reality. But speaking of how the public navigates these complex dynamics, there was another element to the Reddit source material that stood out regarding community moderation.
Yeah, whenever a story involves the Wade family, it often attracts comments about Zaire's sibling, Zaya, who is transgender.
Right. And in this thread, some commenters attempted to introduce transphobic rhetoric into the discussion.
And just to be absolutely clear here, as always, our mission is just to impartially report on the contents of these sources.
Right. We aren't endorsing any specific viewpoints or taking sides. We're simply conveying the ideas and the dynamics that were contained in the original Reddit thread.
Exactly. But what the source material explicitly showed was the community actively shutting down that rhetoric.
They did. The users stepped in to police their own discourse.
They clarified the facts, noting that this incident is strictly about Zaire Dwyane's cisgender son from his first marriage to Sia Von Funches.
And firmly stated that transphobia was unacceptable and totally irrelevant to the severe allegations of domestic violence at hand.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it demonstrates how public forums use celebrity scandals to litigate their own societal norms.
Right. When thousands of people are commenting on Zaire Wade, they aren't just analyzing a Burbank police log.
No, they're actively debating their own boundaries on privilege, the responsibilities of parenting, the mechanics of the justice system, and the intersection of violence and class.
So what does this all mean? If you are listening to this, you might be asking yourself why you should care about the darkest day in a celebrity family's life.
It matters because our consumption of celebrity news is ultimately a mirror. We expect our athletes to be mythic heroes, and we unfairly expect their children to be perfect extensions of that mythology.
Yeah.
When the reality is dark, violent, and involves police tape and a $50,000 bond, we are forced to grapple with the fact that neither fame nor money are shields against human failing or the devastation of alleged abuse.
Which raises an important question about the mechanics of the justice system moving forward, not just for Zaire, but for how the Los Angeles County District Attorney handles a case with this much visibility.
Well, his generational wealth and his family's elite legal connections act as a shield, protecting him from the harshest consequences that an average citizen might face.
Or will his famous last name act as a magnifying glass, subjecting him to a level of relentless public and legal scrutiny that makes a quiet plea deal impossible?
The DA is weighing medical evidence against an uncooperative witness under the brightest possible spotlight.
It's going to be a highly scrutinized process.
And as we wait for the legal machinery to slowly grind forward, I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over. When we idolize a sports hero, when we buy their shoes and cheer for their championships, we inherently place their entire family on a pedestal they never asked to stand on.
That's so true.
If a legacy is painstakingly built over decades through physical dominance on the hardwood, can it be dismantled overnight by the violent actions of the next generation off the court?
Wow.
And when these highly visible families face allegations of profound harm, does the public owe them the grace of privacy in their darkest moments? Or do we owe them relentless scrutiny precisely because of the immense privilege they hold?
The tension between accountability and celebrity privilege is one the justice system struggles to balance every single day.
It is a balance that will be tested in real time. Think back to that quiet Burbank morning, 5:30 a.m., a single 911 call reporting a scream. No matter how much money is in the bank or how many championship rings are locked in the vault, the reality of those flashing police lights is exactly the same.
Absolutely.
You've been listening to Starscope Report, where Jordan and Jamie uncover the stories shaping Hollywood, music, and pop culture.
Thanks for tuning in, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories that keep the stars shining.